morning, YouTube. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that I actually did leave California. And I didn't really film a lot of it because I just needed to push myself out of California and get this kicked off, even though I wanted all of my projects to be done, and actually, they're not. So these shades over here, they're actually not working. Now, to understand what's going on with these window covers, we need to flash back to California. So when Ken originally did the van, for his curtains all around the space, he used these moving blankets, which are amazing, especially like between the cab and the back of the van. I absolutely love it. I don't quite mind the part that's like over the kitchen area. I don't quite mind those as much as because that window is almost inaccessible. But unfortunately, like the ones over the bed, which are right here, are kind of problematic. I roll into them, and because they're floor to ceiling, I roll on them and almost accidentally rip them off of the wall. The ones in the back towards the bathroom, they're just stealing a significant gap between the back door and where the curtain is hanging that I would love to have for space. I always go to the porta potty right back in its corner, and because of the way the curtains are hanging, sometimes I'm crashing into the curtain. If I could get those inches back, it would just be better. So in trying to find an affordable option that worked for me, I came up with these temporary shades from Home Depot. They were only $6 and some change. I do have... So I think I'm going the Reflectix route again eventually, but for now this will do. And just to get that curtain sort of out of my personal space, making it actually a little easier to get to the porta potty, and not having like a curtain invading my bedroom space, because now this is all the way back here, and this curtain rod, as you can see, was much further up, and so by the time that curtain started hanging down, it was invading like a significant amount of my bed space. I do have a replacement option that I'm going to try to make work. The curtains also didn't work because, as you can see, especially from this angle, this is how far the curtain came out. And then by the time, it seems not that far from the wall up here, but by the time it got down to bed level, it was just on me. And unless I pulled out the bed and tucked the curtain behind it, it was just becoming sort of a pain. So I really want something that fits to the window. I thought about just getting some Reflectix again and putting black on the other side. But I decided to go with another option that hopefully will work. But right now, I just need to wake up, get myself together, and find a park because I need to do my exercise for the day. Now, as far as where I slept my first night in Reno, well, I had to go to Home Depot anyway. As soon as I got into Reno, I had to run a bunch of errands. You know, I needed to fill a gas tank. I actually sent a replacement for my LED lights, the half that wasn't working, ahead of me, and now both sides work. Yay! So I had to go pick that up from my Amazon locker in Reno. And that was just also a motivation to get to Reno, because it's like, if I sent it to an Amazon locker ahead of me in Reno, and it was already here, I only had a number of days to get to it. And that was just a motivation to get the heck out of California. I could have driven a completely different way, but I looked at the map and I was like, I'm going to drive into Nevada. And if I'm physically in another state, that'll kick in my brain that I am headed east. I didn't really have to cross through Reno. Like, it was entirely an intentional choice. But as far as my first stealth camp in Reno, obviously, the difference between being in a neighborhood you know and a neighborhood you don't know is you don't know where to park. Like in Berkeley, I can make a split-second decision about where to sleep, and I feel relatively safe that I won't be bothered because I've been doing it for like over a year. And even places close to Berkeley, I kind of know like where to find neighborhoods, where to cruise neighborhoods without a ton of research or random driving. Well, I decided it was late I was tired. A lot had happened. I was out of energy. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to stay at Hotel Home Depot. Now, there were a couple of weird sounds overnight, but honestly, mostly it was fine. Nobody bothered me. I got no knocks, and by no stretch of the imagination are my window covers perfect. And I was up editing really late. Just to give you a sense of timeline, I just got finished launching the membership video on YouTube. And so I was up late editing that and the video that's going to come out after that, which was the bed build for this van. Now, by the time you're seeing this video, I'm sure that video was a couple of weeks ago because YouTube is a little bit off of real time, as it were. But anyway, I was like, I'm just going to try. I'm going to try to just stay here. I'm going to sleep at the back of the lot. And see if anybody asks me to leave. And there are signs that blatantly say they will tow. This is not advice. This is the opposite of what you should do. What I should have done is gone into Home Depot, tried to go to like a service desk or something, explain I was traveling, and ask if they would mind if I slept at the back of the lot for one night, which is what I'm planning to do anyway. I'm not going to like camp out here for like several days. I didn't do that. I decided just to take a random chance. I've slept in enough of these shopping centers as one-offs that I realize as long as there's like a couple of cars, around, nobody really knows, especially when there's, multiple options of like stores, that could have employees who own these vehicles and therefore would need to be here overnight. And so I've seen that happen a lot, where there's always at least 3 or 4 cars in a shopping center like overnight. Now the thing is, and people have pointed this out, this van looks a little more like it's probably a camper than my minivan. Like even with the cargo carrier and the solar panel, it's a minivan, and a lot of that stuff honestly gets lost in the dark. Like you can't really see a solar panel in the dark. You can't really see like the details of a cargo carrier in the dark. And the fact that you have a cargo carrier on top of your van does not mean that it's a camper, even a van as big as this one, because this is a passenger van. It literally used to have seats in it and was designed as like a family vehicle where probably the back seat folded into a bed. I never saw it in that configuration, so I don't know. So moving on, I just said, I think I'll be fine. Like based on my experience dropping in the shopping centers, sometimes in the middle of the night, as long as you're there for one night and you're not raising any ruckus, you'll probably be fine. Even with signs that say towing. And the thing about towing, as long as you they can't tow the vehicle with you in it. So the biggest risk you're taking, and I take these risks all the time, is that you'll be woken up by the sound of a tow truck. That might not be true. Other people might have had different experiences. Why do I have trouble with this word? Where, they might have been arrested or something. I personally haven't had that experience, and I found politeness gets you pretty far. So even if somebody had knocked or and they're not going to tow, this is a big van. It's a relatively big van. It's annoying enough to tow a car, and towing a car takes a couple of steps. It's annoying enough to tow a car. So somebody has to notice the vehicle. They have to decide that vehicle's problematic. They have to make a phone call. They have to get a tow truck here, and then the tow truck has to go through all the steps of hooking up this vehicle to a tow truck. And so I don't think they're going to do it willy-nilly. Probably the first thing that would happen was a knock by security. And so I was willing to risk that happening just because I didn't want to drive anymore. And so I don't think that's the smart way to do it. Again, I did it the wrong way because I've gotten away with it before. And after you're in a van for a while, you start to assess risk differently. I don't know. Some people always safe park. I don't always safe park because, like, I sometimes just decide I'm done driving, and then it becomes the closest option to be done driving. And so far, it's been fine. But like I said, the right way to do it, if you're ever in a situation where you're at like a shopping center, whatever kind of shopping center, a supermarket, a store like Lowe's or Home Depot or anything like that, the best thing to do, especially if you absolutely are only going to be there one night, and you're not planning to camp out long term, is to go in the store, be like, hey, I'm traveling, I'm in a such and such van. Can I, is it going to be a big deal if I just like sleep here overnight in the back of the lot? I'll be really quiet and I'll be gone early in the morning. And most of the time, like, employees are busy, they have stuff to do, and if you've gone through the steps of coming in and asking, they're probably mostly not going to care, especially if you look like a traveler, and not like what they would consider a vagrant. And sometimes I think those judgments are unfair as well. I went into a fast food place, and the sign said, you have to be a customer to use the bathroom. And I really, really had to pee. And that was before this situation. It was a while ago. And I think I was living out of my car at the time. I think it was before I got the van. I don't remember the exact timeline. I remember it was a Taco Bell. And so I went to the Taco Bell, and I was like, I really, really need to use the bathroom, and I don't need any food. Can I please use the bathroom? And he's like, yeah, we just put up that sign to discourage homeless people. Which I think is pretty mean. I mean, I get it. There are people who go into, like, public bathrooms and do disgusting things, and then the employees have to clean it up. But, like, the guy looked at me and made a judgment looking at me that I wasn't a quote-unquote homeless person, even though I was living out of my car at the time. So, like, sometimes going into businesses and just asking will get you really far, especially if you look like not a vagrant or not what they consider a vagrant. It's sad on one hand, but at the other hand, you don't know what you can get until you go in and ask for it. All right, I need to get up, heat up some water on the stove, do my little morning routine, make me a nice cup of hot tea, and get this day started. Seen my morning routine, and I'm now out here at a local park about to do my exercises. Woo! But that will be covered in a separate video. In fact, you probably already saw that video because my exercise videos are actually out of sync with these regular videos. But anyway, I just wanted to take a second to talk about sort of these negative connotations we have about van life and the city. Ooh, the evil city. And so, like, a lot of times the only legitimate van life that's painted is the kind of van life where you go out to the middle of nowhere, BLM land, national forests, or whatever. You go out to like forest land, BLM land, someplace that's like very removed from the city, creepy city. Ooh. And like, sleeping quote unquote on the street, which is not sleeping on the street because you're sleeping in your van, like you're in a home that you own, is also portrayed as like sort of this negative thing, like the worst situation you can be in. And there are stipulations to sort of existing in a city or city area, that you have to be more careful about, mostly overnight. Because honestly, like, while I was waiting for my exercise ball to inflate, like, I was just sitting in between my two little double doors. Like, my doors were open. Anybody who walked past could see it was a camper. It wasn't that big of a deal because I'm not camping out in this park. I'm just here to use it in its day use purpose for the hours that it's open for the public. And it is completely freaking empty. People act like the only isolation you can get, the only privacy you can have, is to literally physically be so far from the city that you're nowhere near resources. And little city parks like this, if like you're just traveling through, and as I travel to the East Coast, I am going to be mostly staying in cities and on regular streets. Now, when I come back, it might be different, and I have a very specific reason for that. I don't know this van. Yes, it's a great and wonderful thing. Give me a second. It's so hot out here. Whew. Yes, this new van is a great and wonderful thing. It's a huge upgrade from what I had space-wise, but as I've always said, all the space in the world doesn't matter if you're not mechanically sound. Now, it seems like it is mechanically sound, but again, I don't know this van. Me and this van are in a new relationship. It's not like my Sienna. My Sienna and I had a long-term relationship, and for all her flaws of size or not looking like the coolest thing on the planet, I knew that van. I trusted what that van could do. I trusted what that van couldn't do. I learned a lot about vans from that van that I did not know starting out. I'm still not the most mechanically inclined, most automotively educated person there is, but I know a lot more than I did from owning that Sienna, but also knew the Sienna itself. I had a certain trust and feeling about it that I don't yet have for this van. In fact, there are ways I miss my Sienna. There are ways I don't, like when I get to wake up in the morning and just use the stovetop without having to dig it out from behind my bed and then like put away this whole structure just to be able to heat up water, which doesn't take that long. Like, I love that aspect of the new van. There's a lot of like little comforts that have gotten a little bit better in having the larger full-size van, and I won't deny that, but mechanically, driving, and traveling wise, like, I knew that Sienna. Me and that Sienna had it, we had a bond. And so it was really hard even just like separating from it to a certain extent. And, it was honestly hard leaving the Avalon, the car that I lived in, for the Sienna for the same reason. Like, I knew that Avalon, I'd had it much less time, but once you get comfortable in a vehicle, it is really hard to move on to a new one, because there's just, yes, you've got that upgrade for a reason, but there are just little things that you knew and understood and felt in your old vehicle that now are readjusting to this new situation, this new relationship. And so I'm happy to have it. But long story short, because I don't know it, I do not want to be out and remote and too far away from resources. And so, like, I kind of want to travel through cities. I want to divert into cities. I want to stay in rest stops. I want to stay in truck stops. I want to stay in places where, like, if something went wrong, there's only a few steps to, like, trying to flag down some help, especially as a solo traveler. And I don't yet trust that van off-road too much. And that's not because I don't, trust where it came from. It just has to do with the fact it's an old van. It's a 2001. It's 19 years later. It's been around for 19 years. For a car that's pretty old. It's not the oldest. I've certainly seen vans older than 2001 out on the streets running just fine. But it's an older van, and I have certain mechanical limitations when it comes to automotive problems. Like, honestly, if my solar panel cable busts, I can fix it. If there's a screw loose, I can fix it. If for some reason my bed isn't working out and I need to build an entirely new bed, I can build it. It may not be the prettiest thing, it may not be the greatest thing, but all those are problems I can solve. I am not good at diagnosing vehicles. and trying to figure out like what's serious and what's not serious. And I did get a mechanical inspection before I left, but even with that, it's a 2001 van that I do not know. So I plan on staying sort of on the path of city. So what does that have to do with sort of this stereotype of city dwelling? Well, it seems to be the portrayal that the only way to do it is to be hiding in secret in like dark corners, trying not to get caught. During the day, I can park my van anywhere I want, and as long as I'm not breaking the freaking law, I'm fine. Like, I'm totally within the parameters of what's allowed to do. I'm allowed to park at this park, sit with my doors open, work on stuff. I'm allowed to steal a little bit of space to do some exercise. I have not violated any of the parameters of what I'm allowed to do as a citizen or as a visitor in this area. The thing is, like, overnight, you want to be respectful. You want to try to avoid. Last night I kind of pushed the border, but I told you what you should have done instead of what I did. I did what I did because I have been doing this a while, and so like I've reached a certain amount of I'll try it and see what happens, and I didn't get a knock and it was fine. And like driving up to here to this park, I was like, oh, there's some street parking I can use, there's some street parking I can use, there's some street parking I can use. And yes, a conversion van, which is what I have now, a full-size conversion van, is still a city vehicle. It was a passenger van. It was not an RV. It's not an RV. It can park on the street. Now, the real question is, are you allowed to sleep in it? How does anybody know you're sleeping in there? It's literally a quiet van sitting on the street, legally parked overnight, and way too many people stress out about that. Just park. Look for a legal place to park if you have like a regular city vehicle. If you have an RV, I'm not having a conversation with you because I don't know that life. At this point, I've lived out of a car, a minivan, and a full-size van. Those three things. And the full-size van is in the same category as like a cargo van. So I feel like they kind of live in the same space of, if you're doing things right, you'll be fine. And then using a day park like this, a day use park or a day use area. I've also used day use areas at lakes and beaches and things like that. Usually they have trash cans. So if you're keeping your trash levels low so that it's not ridiculous, you don't want to be throwing away a giant black bag of trash. But if you have like small trash levels, tie up your little bag of trash and throw it in one of their trash cans. It's really hot, so I'm sweating a lot. I know you're not supposed to be touching your face during COVID. And there's a bathroom. There is a toilet right here. It has a sink with running water. Now, mind you, I don't need it for like my daily activities, but like I can wash my hands and stuff. And also that sink with running water has a toilet. And guess what I can do with my porta potty? I can dump it down that toilet. And the same thing is if you have pee bottles you need to pour out or anything like that you need to get rid of, you can do that at a day use park, especially in a van, because I'm assuming you don't have like the tank capacity of a giant RV. And if your van mostly lives in the city, like that, day use parks are great for stuff like that. Now, I haven't found one in this park, but sometimes you can also find water that you can use, and it may not be drinking water, but like for me, if I needed to fill my fresh tank in my porta potty, why not just go ahead and fill it at some free water that's available at the park? Now, for my personal sink, I know some people have like a Berkeley, and then they have like their sink water. And the good thing about that is like you can kind of get water everywhere because like you're not so concerned about consuming it. So as long as it's like relatively clean, there's more places you can get water. I always get potable water because I only want to have one water source. And then I have it's back there, I don't feel like grabbing it, my filtered water bottle that I use to drink from. So basically anything that's a general level of tap water, I usually use the Glacier fill-up stations. Like that's what I use for my drinking water. But if you just need some water that's not necessarily for drinking, sometimes you can find those at a day use park. And if you're willing to do the whole like night daytime shuffle, which is only moving like twice, this can still be a great way to travel or to live static in a city because, let's say like on the weekend, you can't go far, but you're like, I want to go like not be where I normally am. Great. Cause I've done this when I had a day job and then I had my days off, whatever they were. Now, when I was doing theater, I usually worked on the weekend cause that's usually when people see shows. But I've also had regular day jobs that were Monday through Friday. On your day off, you wake up, you usually have to move from where you woke up, go to like a day use park or something, set yourself up to chill all day until it's almost late. Around the time the park's going to close, pack yourself up, throw away your trash. Why not start at zero? Like, don't leave trash in your van. Pack it up, go find some place to park for the night, go to sleep, wake up in the morning, find some place else to go or move on depending on your situation. Like if you have a day job or if you don't, if you move on to someplace new, or you just use that sort of as your weekend chill spot. Like there are ways to exist in the city that isn't the stereotype of the bum sitting in front of a broken down RV or a broken down van with like crap falling out of it, trash all around it, smelling like, somebody's dead animal. Like that isn't what city travel or full-time city van life that's static has to be. It's super flexible, and that's sort of the point of van life. So that's my spiel as I sit here in this beautiful park by myself about to turn it into my own private gym. I hope you guys have a good day. I am like pouring sweat and I still have to exercise. I haven't even started yet and I've run my mouth too much. So I'll see you in the next video.